Now, to something different. Gauteng province now has 24 specialised schools. They focus more on giving entrepreneurship skills to learners and cultivating talent across diverse fields. The latest school was officially opened in Boksburg yesterday. The school's primary focus will be on hospitality and tourism. For more on this, now we're joined in studio by spokesperson for the Education Department here in Gauteng, Steve Mabona. Steve, thank you so much for coming in on a busy Friday afternoon. 24 specialisation schools. Now we know the Education Department has changed their outlook on various things over the last it's almost 30 years now of our new dispensation. We know that there were specialised schools before under the previous regime, but they weren't in the right places to really cater to our population. How does this approach to opening more and more of these specialised schools fit in with the current curriculum and ensuring that there is accessibility to the communities who need this more than any other?
No, the previous era were doing it not at this level. What we are doing in Gauteng.
Because they were catering for a far smaller population. Definitely.
We are now, focusing in all the regions. We actually now have 24 of these schools, so we'll be expanding. We want to have about 31, but we are open to do more in the near future. We are saying, to a certain extent, some learners, they will give you what corporate will give in terms of the skills. So they amass a skill to a certain extent that some of them, they don't even need to go to a university, for instance. We are trying to do away with the notion that everyone must go to a university. Not all of us can be academics. Some we need skills which will then assist us to go in the corporate world and work and be entrepreneurs. The school that we've opened, yesterday will be focusing on commerce and entrepreneurship. We're focusing on travel and tourism, looking at the location of the school, not far from the airport. But also, look at the industry of hospitality. We're partnering with a lot of partners that are going to assist us. We'll be having chefs there, we'll be having pilots, we'll be having, cabin crew. They will be trained, on those fields because we are specializing. So we are saying these are the future schools. Gone are the days where you just have one certificate, because we're linking this with what we call multi-certification.
So that's where I want to come in with my next question. Where does this fit in? Because we do know there are certain changes to high school curriculum, about changes to when kids would be allowed to leave school, but hoping then that they take the opportunities to get skilled at specialist centres. Is that where this fits in? How does this fit into the various grades that teenagers would normally find themselves in high school?
No, we focus on technicality more than anything. Most of the schools, we will convert them from being, some of the technical schools where you have learners taking, technical maths, technical subjects, looking at carpentry, building, construction, look at all those fields. Make sure that when they leave your institution, one way or the other, they have certification, because we then work very closely with the CETAs to say a certificate that you're going to get there, it will be recognized. Look at coding and robotics. You don't want to be exposed to something that you're not going to be certified in. So all these learners, they will then have coding and robotics. And they were demonstrating yesterday on what they have learned up to so far. Technology that is utilized in their field. Those are the things that we are looking at, and we are working very hard to make sure that the skill that they will be, amassing from our sector will then, assist them. And we, like for instance, those that are doing home economics, they will have their mentors that will be assisting them, and we also do agro farming, in the schools to say, if you farm, these are the ways that are easy You don't need a huge, place where we have hectares and hectares where you can farm. You can utilize a small space to farm and produce food that you're going to be cooking.
Now, speaking of which, you now said the one you opened yesterday, it's entrepreneurship school, commerce and entrepreneurship. There's also a focus on the hospitality industry, seeing as it's close to the airport. How are you going about deciding what speciality should be the focus of these schools that you open and where you open them?
No, we will look at the locations. Like, for instance, there's a school of maritime. They do math, science, but then their focus is on maritime. They are in the Val. We look at the dam. If they want to do some experimental training, they will then use the dam because they are closer to it. There's a school of commerce in Machalis. They focus on agriculture. The farming element to, at this entirety, and management thereof of the farming sector will then be in that school. We have Rhodes-Field, a school of aviation, because they are also close to the airport now. They drill into, engineers, which will be focusing in the aviation, be it your traffic controllers, be it your pilots, be it your mechanics, the ground staff in the aviation sector. We have a school that is specializing on automotive in the Tshwane area. Tshwane is more of automotive, not far from BMW, Ford, Nissan, and all those. They are in Soshanguve, specializing in automotive. So there's even a BMW there that they can, utilize their mechanical skills to work on the engine. So we look at different fields and different areas. I mean, we opened one in the West Rand, which focuses in mining, because we have mines that side. And we also opened one in eNCA that focuses on mining because we have coal mines in that area. So each and every school will then specialize, and we think is the future, because our partners can then tap into that skill to a certain extent that some of these learners, they are taken for experimental training and they are appointed, and they will then be working in those
It really makes so much sense. Now people might be watching right now and they want to know, firstly, from what age and grade of completion do you accept students at these specialist schools, and how do people apply, and do the same rules and regulations apply in terms of gaining access? For instance, like we always talk about the district of the pool of where kids can apply for a school and that kind of thing. Does that apply to these schools? Tell us more about how people can apply to get in.
All schools of specialization, there will be a form of an assessment that you go through. When we open for online admissions, as you know that all our, when you go to grade 8, you must apply online. You can identify a school of specialization, but then it will indicate that you must make sure that your child go to that school for an assessment. There is that assessment. Unfortunately, if you don't pass the assessment, we can't take you because we specialize. To a certain extent, we also have a school of specialization in sport. Okay. I mean, some of the learners there, they are representing us internationally. They would have been assessed, their competency on the sports that they would have, want to focus in, a different one, whether netball. I mean, we took actually few girls who to the World Cup in Cape Town to go have an exposure. So
basically the approach, and unfortunately we've run out of time, is you go through the same processes, you go onto the same portal, and those specialist schools are listed there as part of the list of schools you can choose from the Gauteng Education Department, and it runs from grade 8 right through to the completion of whatever course you then decide to take. So if people want any more information, they can find it on the Gauteng Education Department website, and really giving people and families far more options when trying to map a way forward for their young people. So we thank you for coming in this afternoon to give us the very latest on that. Some encouraging developments on the education front. Still to come.